The large silver ship landed in an open field outside Seoul on a clear Tuesday morning. It made almost no sound as it touched down, just a soft hum that faded quickly. People gathered at the edges of the field, held back by police lines. Many took pictures with their phones. Some looked scared, others looked excited. Commander Tae-ho Kim stood tall in his crisp military uniform. He had been chosen to meet the aliens first because of his calm nature and sharp mind. Next to him stood Dr. Ji-eun Park, Earth's best scientist who studied life from other planets. Her hands gripped her tablet tightly, but her face showed no fear. "Remember," Tae-ho said quietly, "we represent all humans today." Ji-eun nodded. "I know. I just wish we knew more about them." The ship's door opened slowly. A ramp extended to the ground. 3 tall figures walked down. They stood much taller than any human, with thin bodies and large heads. Their skin was pale blue, almost glowing in the sunlight. But most striking were their eyes, huge, black, and shining like polished stones. The alien in front stepped forward. "I am called Visitor in your language. We come from the Galactic Coalition." Tae-ho bowed slightly. "I am Commander Kim Tae-ho of Earth's United Defense Force. This is Dr. Park Ji-eun, our chief scientist who studies life from other worlds." The aliens looked at each other, their large eyes blinking slowly. They seemed to be talking without words. "We have studied your planet for some time," Visitor said. His voice sounded strange, like water bubbling over rocks. "Your species is interesting. We hope to learn about your people too," Ji-eun said, stepping forward. "Would you join us at our meeting center?" The aliens followed them to waiting cars. People lined the streets as they drove to Seoul's International Peace Center, a tall glass building built specially for this meeting. Inside, more officials waited in a large room with a round table. As everyone sat down, Ji-eun noticed how the aliens kept squinting under the bright lights. "Is the lighting uncomfortable for you?" she asked. Visitor turned his large eyes toward her. "We come from a world with less light than yours. Our eyes see better in darkness." The head of Earth's council, an older man named Director Kang, spoke up. "We can dim the lights if that would help." When the lights lowered, the aliens seemed more at ease. Their eyes opened wider, and Tae-ho noticed how the black centers seemed to grow, allowing them to see better in the dim room. "We have brought information about our coalition," Visitor said. "Many worlds, many species working together. Your world is invited to join." Director Kang smiled. "That is wonderful news. What would membership mean for Earth?" "Trade, knowledge, protection." Visitor's large eyes moved around the room, studying each human carefully. "But first, we must understand if your species can contribute." Something in the alien's tone made Tae-ho feel uneasy. He had been a soldier long enough to know when someone was not sharing everything. "What do you mean by contribute?" Tae-ho asked. Visitor turned those large black eyes to him. "Each species offers unique abilities, strengths. Your kind seems limited in some ways." The room grew quiet. Ji-eun leaned forward. "Limited how?" "Your eyes," another alien said, speaking for the first time. This one had taken the Earth name Scholar. "They function only in bright conditions. You cannot see in darkness." "That's true," Ji-eun said carefully. "Human eyes need light to see properly." Visitor made a sound like a soft whistle. "A severe evolutionary disadvantage. On most worlds, predators hunt in darkness, yet your species survived." Curious. Tae-ho felt his back stiffen. There was something like mockery in the alien's voice. "We adapted in other ways," he said. "Of course," Visitor said, his tone now smooth. "All species adapt, but some adapt better than others." Director Kang cleared his throat, clearly trying to move past this awkward moment. "We have prepared information about Earth for you as well, our achievements, our cultures." The meeting continued for hours. The aliens shared details about their coalition, 57 different species spread across hundreds of worlds. They showed images of strange cities, unusual creatures, and advanced machines. Earth, they explained, was in a quiet part of the galaxy that few had explored until now. As the meeting ended, Ji-un approached Visitor. "I'm very interested in learning more about your species. Would you be open to a cultural exchange? Perhaps some of us could visit your world and some of your people could stay here?" The aliens looked at each other again, doing their silent communication. Finally, Visitor turned back to Ji-un. "Yes, we will establish a base on your moon, and we will invite a small group to visit our nearest colony world, Umbra 9. Later that night, Tai-ho and Ji-un met in a secure room beneath the Peace Center. 5 other people joined them, Earth's secret defense team. "What do you think?" asked Minho, the head of global security. Tai-ho's face was serious. "They're hiding something. The way they talked about our vision being limited. It wasn't just an observation." "I agree," Ji-un said. "They see us as weaker because we can't see in the dark, but that seems like a strange thing to focus on." Minho nodded. "That's why both of you are going to Umbra 9. You're not just scientists and diplomats, you're our best eyes and ears." "What exactly are we looking for?" Ji-un asked. "Anything unusual. Any sign that they don't see us as equals. Any hint of what they really want from Earth." Minho handed them small devices that looked like normal earrings. "These are quantum communicators. They can send messages instantly, even across space. If you find anything concerning, let us know immediately." 3 months later, Tai-ho stood on the surface of the moon, watching Earth rise over the gray horizon. The aliens had built their base quickly, a dome of strange metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Beautiful, isn't it?" asked Visitor, who had appeared silently behind him. "Yes," Tai-ho said. "I'm looking forward to seeing your world too. Umbra 9 is quite different from Earth, much darker. I wonder how you will adapt." Visitor's huge eyes reflected the distant Earth. "Your kind has surprised us before. Perhaps you will again." As Tai-ho boarded the alien ship bound for Umbra 9 the next day, he checked his hidden communicator and thought about Visitor's words. Ji-un sat beside him, her face calm, but her eyes alert. "Ready?" she whispered. Tai-ho nodded. "Ready to see what they're hiding in the dark." The ship's doors closed and darkness surrounded them as they left Earth behind. The journey to Umbra 9 took 2 weeks. Tai-ho and Ji-un spent most of that time in their small room on the alien ship. The room was always too dark for them to see well. They knew the aliens were testing them. "They want us to feel uncomfortable," Ji-un said as she sat on her bed. "They want to show us that humans are weak in their world." Tai-ho nodded. He was using his time to exercise, keeping his body strong. "Then we will show them they are wrong." When they finally arrived at Umbra 9, they saw a strange world through the ship's windows. The planet was large and ringed like Saturn. It had 3 moons. All this made the planet's surface very dark, with only brief periods of dim light each day. "Welcome to our colony world," Visitor said as they stepped off the ship. "Please put these on." He handed them what looked like glasses. When Tai-ho put them on, the dark world suddenly became clear. He could see buildings made of blue metal and strange plants with no leaves. "These will help you see in our world," Visitor explained. "Without them, you would be blind here." Ji-un studied the glasses. "Thank you. This is very helpful technology." "A simple tool," Visitor said, his voice sounding almost bored. "Our young ones use them when they are still developing their night vision." Again, Tai-ho felt the slight insult in the aliens' words. The aliens, who now told the humans their true name was the Nocturne, treated them like children. The Nocturne took them to a building where other humans would stay. There were 6 others, scientists and diplomats from Earth. They all looked tired and nervous. "How are you holding up?" Tai-ho asked a woman named Subin, who studied alien languages. "It's hard," she said quietly. "They treat us like we're stupid because we can't see in the dark. Everything is a test." Tai-ho put a hand on her shoulder. Remember why we're here. We need to learn all we can about them. The next morning, though it was hard to tell morning from night on Umbra 9, Ji-un went to the main research center. She was paired with Scholar, the Nocturne who had spoken at the first meeting on Earth. Today we will study your biology, Scholar said, showing her a room full of strange machines. We are very interested in your eyes. Ji-un smiled politely. I'm happy to help. I'm also interested in learning about your species. Of course, Scholar said, but first please look into this device. For hours, the Nocturne ran tests on Ji-un's eyes. They shone different lights, showed various patterns, and measured how her eyes responded. Scholar seemed fascinated by how poorly human eyes worked in darkness. Your kind must have lived in constant fear, Scholar said. When night came, you could not see threats around you. Ji-un thought carefully before answering. We created fire. Very early in our history, light became our tool. A crutch, Scholar said. A way to make up for your weakness. Meanwhile, Taeho was taken to see the Nocturne military facilities. His guide was a Nocturne officer who called himself Captain. We protect the coalition from threats, Captain explained, showing Taeho their ships. All members contribute to defense. Earth would be happy to contribute, Taeho said. We have our own military strengths. Captain made a sound like quiet laughter. Without technology to help you see, your soldiers would be useless in most battles. They entered a room where young Nocturne were training. They moved silently through a completely dark room, avoiding obstacles and hitting targets with perfect accuracy. Our children can do this, Captain said. Could yours? Taeho watched carefully. Humans learn to use other senses when we can't. See? We adapt. That evening, when all the humans gathered for dinner, they shared what they had learned. Everyone had similar experiences. The Nocturne constantly tested them and pointed out human weaknesses. They're studying us too closely, Huanwu said. He was a physicist who had been paired with a Nocturne scientist studying light. They're not just curious, they want to know all our limitations. After the others went to bed, Taeho and Ji-un met in her room. They turned on a small device that blocked listening devices. I think it's time to use the communicator, Taeho said. Something isn't right here. Ji-un nodded and touched her earring. The small quantum device activated, connecting them instantly to Earth despite the vast distance. Report, came Minho's voice, clear as if he were in the room with them. The Nocturne are too interested in our inability to see in the dark, Ji-un said. They've run extensive tests on our eyes and vision. They're also very focused on how this affects our military capabilities, Taeho added. They seem to be evaluating us as a potential threat. There was silence for a moment. Then Minho spoke again. We've been monitoring the moon base. There's increased activity there. More ships arriving. More equipment being installed. What kind of equipment? Taeho asked. We're not sure yet, but we've intercepted some communications. They're talking about something called the Darkness Protocol. Ji-un and Taeho looked at each other with concern. Keep learning what you can, Minho said. We're sending someone to infiltrate the moon base. His name is Jun Seo. He's our best agent for this kind of work. The next day, Ji-un was working with Scholar when she carefully brought up a new subject. I've heard that the Nocturne have many colonies. Is Umbra 9 typical of your worlds? Scholar's huge eyes blinked slowly. We prefer worlds with less light. Your Earth is painfully bright to us. It would be difficult for us to live there, as it is now. Something in the way he said those last words made Ji-un's heart beat faster. As it is now? Do you expect Earth to change? Scholar turned back to his work. All planets change over time, sometimes quickly. At the military facility, Taeho noticed new ships arriving. They were different from the others, darker with strange devices mounted on them. What are those? He asked Captain. Special vessels, Captain said. For special missions. What kind of missions? Captain looked at him with those large black eyes. The kind that change worlds. That night Taeho couldn't sleep. He got up and looked out his window at the dark landscape of Umbra 9. In the distance, he saw nocturne ships taking off, heading toward space. His communicator beeped softly. It was a message from Earth. Moonbase expanded. New devices installed. Energy readings suggest weapons. Junseo in position, and just then there was a soft knock at his door. When he opened it, Ji-un stood there, her face pale. "I overheard Scholar talking to another nocturne," she whispered. "They said the darkness protocol starts in 3 days." "What is it?" Tae-ho asked. "I don't know exactly, but I heard them say that soon Earth will be perfect for nocturne colonization." Tae-ho's blood ran cold. "They're not inviting us to join their coalition. They want our planet, and they plan to change it somehow," Ji-un added. "Something about darkness." Tae-ho touched his communicator. "We need to warn Earth, and we need to find out exactly what they're planning before it's too late." As they spoke, a young nocturne officer was walking down the hallway toward their room. He stopped when he heard their voices, his large eyes widening in the darkness. Tae-ho heard footsteps in the hallway and quickly pulled Ji-un into his room, closing the door quietly. "Someone's out there," he whispered. They waited, barely breathing. A moment later, there was a knock. "Commander Kim?" a voice called. "I need to speak with you." Tae-ho opened the door slightly. A young nocturne officer stood there looking nervous, his large eyes darting around. "My name is Aid," the nocturne said softly. "I heard what you said about the darkness protocol. I want to help you." Tae-ho and Ji-un exchanged quick glances. It could be a trap. "Why would you help us?" Ji-un asked. "Not all nocturne agree with this plan," Aid explained. "Some of us believe Earth should be invited to join the coalition fairly, but the military leaders think differently." Tae-ho studied the young alien. His body language seemed genuine, his large eyes showing what looked like fear. "Tell us about the darkness protocol," Tae-ho said. Aid came inside, and they closed the door. "The Nocturne have developed weapons that can create darkness on a global scale," he explained. "They plan to use them on Earth. The weapons will create a shield in your upper atmosphere that will block most sunlight." Ji-un gasped. "That would destroy our ecosystem. Plants would die. Temperatures would drop." "Yes," Aid said. "Most humans would not survive, but the Nocturne would find it perfect. They plan to colonize Earth after your species is weakened." Tae-ho's face hardened. "When will they launch these weapons?" "Tomorrow," Aid said. "The ships are already heading toward Earth. They will deploy from your moon base." Tae-ho immediately activated his communicator. "Did you hear that?" he asked Minho. "Every word," Minho's voice replied. "We're already taking action. Junseo will attempt to sabotage the moon base, but you two need to find a way to stop the ships leaving from Umbra 9. "How?" Ji-un asked. "There are only 8 of us here against an entire planet of Nocturne." Aid spoke up. "I can help, and there are others who feel as I do. We need to move. Quickly," Tae-ho said. "Ji-un, wake the others. Tell them what's happening." Ji-un nodded and hurried out. "Aid, can you get us access to the Nocturne communication systems?" Tae-ho asked. "Yes," the young alien replied. "I work in the central control building." "Good. We need to warn Earth and coordinate with Junseo on the moon." An hour later, the humans gathered in Huan Wu's room. They all looked worried but determined. "I've been studying their technology," Huan Wu said. "The Nocturne have an interesting weakness. Their enhanced night vision is very sensitive. A sudden, intense light can temporarily blind them." "That could help us," Tae-ho said. "But we need more than just flashlights." Ji-un had been quiet, thinking. Now she spoke up. "I've been working with Scholar on a project related to nocturne vision. They've developed a virus that can temporarily enhance night vision. It affects the nerve cells in the eyes." "Could it be modified to do the opposite?" Tae-ho asked. "To remove their ability to see in the dark?" Ji-un's eyes widened. "Maybe. If I can get back into the lab, I might be able to reverse its effects." "I'll go with you," Aid said. "I can get you access." Tae-ho nodded. The rest of us will work on a way to contact all humans on Earth. They need to be ready when the darkness comes." At that moment, Taeho's communicator beeped. It was Minho. "Bad news," he said. "Our satellites have detected nocturne ships entering Earth's orbit. They're moving faster than we expected. The darkness protocol is already beginning." Taeho looked at the others. "We're out of time." On Earth, people were going about their normal day when the sky began to change. Strange, dark clouds spread across the blue, but they weren't really clouds. They were millions of tiny devices, forming a shield high above the planet. In cities around the world, lights flickered and went out. The nocturne ships were using electromagnetic pulses to disable power grids. Darkness spread across Earth like a giant shadow. In the command center, beneath Seoul, Minho watched on screens powered by special protected generators. "They're attacking sooner than we expected," an officer said. "What do we do?" Minho's face was calm. "Exactly what we planned. Activate Operation Shadowplay." All across Earth, specially trained soldiers moved into position. They carried no lights, no night vision goggles. They had trained for months for this exact scenario, ever since the first hints that the Nocturne might be hostile. On the moon base, Junseo moved silently through the dark corridors. The Nocturne had shut off all lights, thinking it would blind any humans inside. They didn't know that Junseo had been training his whole life to work without sight. He reached the main control room and placed small devices on key equipment. Then he spoke into his communicator. "Charge is set. Waiting for your signal." Back on Umbra 9, Ji-eun worked quickly in Scholar's lab. Aide stood guard at the door. "How much longer?" he asked nervously. "Almost done," Ji-eun replied. She was modifying the vision virus, changing its genetic code to reverse its effects. This should disable their night vision for about 6 hours. Will that be enough time? "It has to be," Aide said. Taeho and the other humans had gathered in the central communication building. With Aide's help, they had gained access to the colony's atmospheric processors. These machines controlled the air quality throughout the colony. "Is the virus ready?" Taeho asked when Ji-eun arrived carrying a small container. "Yes," she said. "If we put it into the air system, it should affect all Nocturne in the colony." "Do it," Taeho ordered. Ji-eun connected the container to the air system. A fine mist spread through the vents, invisible but potent. "How long until it takes effect?" Hwan Woo asked. "About 10 minutes," Ji-eun replied. Taeho touched his communicator. "Junseo, be ready. When the Nocturne on Umbra 9 lose their vision, that's your signal." "Understood," Junseo replied from the moon base. Across the colony, Nocturne began to panic as their prized night vision failed. Suddenly, they could not see in their own dark world. They stumbled and called out to each other in confusion. In the central command building, Scholar burst into the room where the humans were gathered. "What have you done?" he demanded, his large eyes blinking rapidly. "Created a level playing field," Ji-eun replied calmly. On Earth's moon base, Junseo heard the signal and activated the charges he had placed. Key systems in the base exploded, disrupting the Nocturne's control over the darkness shield above Earth. In space, half of the shield failed, allowing sunlight to return to part of Earth. In the colony, Taeho accessed the Nocturne communication system. "Attention all Nocturne ships," he said, his voice reaching every vessel. "This is Commander Kim Taeho of Earth. Your attack has failed. Return to Umbra 9 immediately or face destruction." On the main command ship orbiting Earth, the Nocturne base commander received reports of systems failing across their fleet. The humans were fighting back in ways they had not expected. "How can they see to fight in the darkness?" he demanded. "Humans cannot see without light." Just then the commander heard a voice. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, echoing through the dark ship. "Then why are you all hiding from me?" Taeho's voice asked. The commander spun around, trying to locate the source of the voice. But in the darkness he saw nothing. For the first time, the Nocturne felt afraid of the dark. On Earth, darkness covered most of the planet. Cities that were usually bright with lights now sat in deep shadow. The nocturne ships hovered above, waiting for humans to panic and surrender. But something strange was happening. Instead of chaos and fear, the nocturne observed something unexpected. Humans were moving with purpose and organization through the darkness. In Seoul, Minho directed operations from the underground command center. Large screens showed the positions of nocturne ships and Earth's defense teams. They thought darkness would be our weakness, Minho told his officers. But we've been preparing for this since they first arrived. For months, special units of soldiers, police, and civilians had trained to function without sight. They had learned to use their other senses in new ways. Now, they moved through darkened cities with confidence. In New York, a team of humans moved silently toward a nocturne landing site. They carried no lights, no night vision devices. Instead, they used sound and touch to navigate. They could feel the vibrations of the alien ships through the ground. They could smell the strange, sweet odor that the nocturne bodies gave off. Team Alpha in position, their leader whispered into a communicator. Similar teams were moving into place around the world. They had practiced for hundreds of hours in complete darkness. They had learned to fight without seeing. On the moon base, Junseo continued his mission. The explosions had damaged key systems, but the base was still operational. He needed to do more. A group of nocturne guards searched for him, their large eyes scanning the darkness. They didn't know that Junseo had trained himself to control his breathing and heart rate. To them, he was invisible in the dark corridors. Junseo moved behind one guard. In one quick, silent motion, he disabled the alien and took his weapon. The strange gun felt light in his hands. He continued toward the main power core. In orbit above Earth, the Nocturne commander was receiving troubling reports. Human teams are attacking our landing parties, an officer reported. They are moving through darkness without technology to help them see. Impossible, the commander said. How can they navigate? How can they find our soldiers in the dark? They are using other senses, the officer explained. They can hear us moving, they can smell us. Some can even feel our body heat from a distance. The commander stared into the darkness of his ship. For the first time, he felt afraid. The humans were not helpless without light as they had expected. Back, on Umbra 9, Taeho led the human delegation through the confused colony. The Nocturne stumbled in their own world, blinded by Jiun's virus. We need to reach their main communication center, Taeho told the others. From there, we can contact all their ships at once. This way, Aide said, leading them through dark streets. Even with his vision impaired, he knew the layout of the colony. Scholar had been taken with them. This is a mistake, he warned. The coalition will send more ships. They will destroy your world for this. Your coalition attacked us. First, Jiun reminded him, you planned to kill most of our population and take our planet. We studied your history, Scholar replied. Humans have done the same to each other many times. We simply have better technology. You also have a big mistake in your thinking, Huanwu said as they walked. You thought our inability to see in darkness was our greatest weakness, but it became our greatest strength. That makes no sense, Scholar said. Because we couldn't see well in darkness, we had to develop our other senses, Jiun explained. We had to find different ways to understand our environment. Humans who lose one sense often develop their other senses to compensate. They reached the central communication building. Nocturne technicians sat at control panels struggling to see the displays. Step away from the controls, Taeho ordered. The technicians moved back, their large eyes blinking rapidly as they tried to make out the human shapes in the dimness. Huanwu sat at the main console. I've been studying their systems, he said. I can send a message to all their ships at once. While he worked, Taeho contacted Earth. How are things there? He asked Minho. The Nocturne expected us to be helpless in the dark, Minho replied. They didn't know we've been training for this. Our teams are engaging their forces on the ground. Junseo has disabled half of the moon base. Can you hold out? Yes. But we need to end this quickly. How soon can you broadcast to their fleet? Huanwu is setting it up now, Taeho said. At the console, Huanwu nodded. Ready. Taeho stood before the communication device. His voice would reach every Nocturne ship, around Earth and in space. Attention all Nocturne forces. This is Commander Kim Taeho of Earth. Your attack has failed. Your advantage is gone. Even now, your ships are being disabled. Your ground forces are being captured. We control your base on Umbra 9. He paused, letting his words sink in. Earth is not defenseless. Humans have survived for thousands of years by adapting to challenges. Yes, we cannot see in darkness as well as you can, but that limitation forced us to develop our other senses. We can hear your movements. We can feel vibrations through the floor. We can smell your presence. Some of us can even sense the heat from your bodies. On ships around Earth, Nocturne officers listened with growing concern. You thought darkness would be our weakness, Taeho continued. Instead, it revealed our strength. We are calling on you to withdraw your forces immediately. Return to Umbra 9. End this attack. In the command ship orbiting Earth, the Nocturne commander faced a difficult decision. Reports from ground forces were alarming. Humans were moving through darkness with unexpected skill. They were not panicking as predicted. Should we continue the attack? An officer asked. Before the commander could answer, the lights on the ship suddenly came on, blindingly bright. The Nocturne officers covered their sensitive eyes, crying out in pain. Junseo had reached the moon base's main control system. He had reversed the power to the Nocturne ships, flooding them with light instead of darkness. On Earth, the darkness shield was failing section by section. Sunlight returned to cities around the world. But the human defense teams continued their operations, showing they could fight just as effectively in light as in darkness. In New York, a Nocturne officer was cornered by a human team. How? He asked. How did you find us in the dark? The team leader smiled. We've spent our entire evolutionary history adapting to limitations. We learned to use all our senses, not just our eyes. On Umbra 9, Taeho received word that the Nocturne ships were beginning to withdraw from Earth orbit. It's working, he told the others. They're retreating. Ji-eun looked at Scholar. You didn't understand humans. You saw our inability to see in darkness as a pure disadvantage. You never considered that this limitation might have made us stronger in other ways. How? Scholar asked, genuinely confused. When you rely too much on one sense, you neglect the others, Hwanwoo explained. Your night vision is amazing, but your hearing is no better than ours. Your sense of smell is actually worse. You never needed to develop those senses because your vision was so good. Humans have always had to compensate for our limitations, Taeho added. That's our real strength, not any one ability, but our adaptability. As they spoke, the effects of Ji-eun's virus began to wear off. Scholar's night vision was slowly returning. He looked at the humans with new understanding. I see now, he said quietly. We made a serious error in our assessment of your species. Outside, the artificial darkness over Umbra 9 was lifting. A new day was beginning, both on this alien world and on Earth. 3 days after the failed Nocturne attack, the darkness shield above Earth was completely gone. Sunlight returned to every part of the planet. Power systems came back online. Life began to return to normal, though people now looked at the stars with new awareness. In a large meeting room in Seoul's International Peace Center, Taeho stood at a window, watching the busy city below. Ji-eun joined him, looking tired but proud. Hard to believe it was only a week ago that we were on Umbra 9, she said. Taeho nodded. Everything has changed. Behind them, Earth officials prepared for an important meeting. The Nocturne leadership had requested peace talks. Their ships had withdrawn to a safe distance from Earth. The attack was over, but the future relationship between humans and the Galactic Coalition remained uncertain. The door opened and Director Kang entered with Minho and several other officials. Following them were 3 Nocturne, Visitor, Scholar, and a new one they hadn't met before. This is Elder, Director Kang said, introducing the new Nocturne. He represents the highest leadership of the Coalition. Elder was clearly older than the other Nocturne. His skin was paler, and his large eyes had a milky quality to them. Commander Kim, Elder said, his voice deeper than the other nocturne. Dr. Park, your actions have forced the Coalition to reconsider many things. Everyone sat at the large round table. The lights were kept at a medium level, comfortable for both species. Let me be direct, Elder began. The attack on your world was not authorized by the full Coalition. It was the action of certain military leaders who saw an opportunity to claim a valuable planet. But you knew about it, Tejo said. It wasn't a question. Elder's large eyes blinked slowly. Yes, we knew. We did not stop it because we believed the assessment that humans were a limited species. We were wrong. You underestimated us, Minho said. Greatly, Elder admitted. We made a fundamental error. We saw your inability to see in darkness as a critical weakness. We did not understand how that limitation had shaped your species in positive ways. Jiun leaned forward. You relied too much on one sense, vision. You never had to develop your other senses as strongly as we did. Scholar, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. We have begun studying how humans use their other senses. It is remarkable. Some of you can hear sounds we cannot detect, others can feel tiny vibrations through solid objects. Your sense of smell, while not as acute as some Earth animals, is more developed than ours. Necessity drives innovation, Ji-Yoon said. Because we couldn't see well in darkness, we had to find other ways to understand our environment. Elder nodded. This is the lesson we have learned. The Coalition has always valued species for their obvious strengths. We never considered that limitations might create different kinds of strengths. Director Kang looked at the Nocturne carefully. So, what happens now? Can Earth trust the Coalition after this attack? The military leaders responsible have been removed from power, Elder said. We wish to offer Earth full membership in the Coalition, with all protections that entails. No member species can attack another without facing the combined force of all others. And what would Earth bring to this Coalition? Tejo asked. You seemed to think we had little to offer before. We were wrong, Elder said simply. Your adaptability alone is a valuable trait. But we have also seen your technology, your cultures, your creative thinking. These are all valuable. The humans looked at each other. This was what they had hoped for from the beginning, equal membership in the galactic community. We will need time to consider, Director Kang said, and our people will need to vote on such an important decision. Of course, Elder agreed. We will wait. After the meeting, Ji-Yoon and Scholar walked through the Peace Center gardens. The Nocturne wore special glasses to protect his sensitive eyes from the bright sunlight. I have been authorized to establish a permanent research exchange, Scholar told her. If you are interested, we could continue our work together. I am particularly interested in how humans have compensated for their visual limitations. Ji-Yoon smiled. I would like that. And perhaps we can learn something about seeing in the dark from you. A fair exchange, Scholar agreed. I must admit, when I first met humans, I thought you were simple creatures. Now I see that your species is far more complex than we realized. All species have strengths and weaknesses, Ji-Yoon said. The trick is knowing how to use both to your advantage. Meanwhile, Tai-Ho met with Jun Seo, who had returned safely from the moon base. They stood on the Peace Center roof, looking at the bright blue sky. What you did on the moon was remarkable, Tai-Ho said. How did you navigate so well in complete darkness? Jun Seo smiled. My grandmother was blind. She taught me how to use my other senses from when I was very young. I could find my way around her house with my eyes closed before I was 5 years old. So your personal limitation became our greatest advantage, Tai-Ho said. Exactly. The Nocturne never understood that what seems like a weakness can become a strength with the right training. That evening, Earth's leaders announced the Coalition's offer to the public. The news spread quickly around the world. People had many questions and concerns, but there was also excitement about joining a larger galactic community. 1 month later, after global discussions and votes, Earth accepted membership in the Galactic Coalition. The formal ceremony took place in the Peace Center, with representatives from many Coalition worlds attending. Elder signed the agreement on behalf of the Coalition. Director Kang signed for Earth. The room broke into applause. Afterward, at the celebration, Visitor approached. Tae-ho, we have reclassified humans in our databases, Visitor said. You are now listed as apex adapters instead of visually limited. Tae-ho raised an eyebrow. That sounds better, I suppose. It is our highest classification for adaptive species, Visitor explained. Many coalition members are now studying human methods of sensory adaptation. Your limitation became your greatest innovation. Later that night, Tae-ho and Ji-eun stood on a balcony looking at the stars. Somewhere out there were thousands of worlds with different species, all part of the same coalition that Earth had now joined. Do you think they'll try to attack us? Again? Ji-eun asked. Tae-ho shook his head. I don't think so. They learned something important about humans. What's that? That we don't just overcome our limitations, Tae-ho said. We turn them into strengths. We couldn't see in the dark, so we learned to fight in ways that didn't require sight. Ji-eun smiled. And in the process, we developed abilities they never imagined. As darkness fell over Seoul, lights came on across the city. Humans had always pushed back against the darkness with their technology and innovation. But now they knew something else. Even in complete darkness, they were not helpless. The night sky above was filled with stars, each possibly home to different species with their own strengths and weaknesses. Earth was now part of that wider community, not despite their limitations, but because of how they had adapted to overcome them. The universe is mostly dark, Tae-ho said quietly, but that doesn't scare us anymore. No, Ji-eun agreed, because when you asked why they were hiding from you in the darkness, Tae-ho smiled. They finally understood that darkness isn't our enemy. It's just another environment we've learned to master in our own way. As they looked up at the stars, both knew that humanity's place in the cosmos was secure. Not because they were the strongest or the fastest or could see in the dark, but because when faced with limitations, humans didn't just adapt, they thrived. The end.